Welcome to the Soul Deep Podcast with Jessica Janty. Join me as we dive deep into raw, real, in-depth conversations about life, love, relationships, sexuality, spirituality, what it is we're really here for, and anything in between. I want this to feel like a safe space for anyone on a spiritual journey, trying to find answers in your truth by having open heart and open-minded conversations. And my hope for you as a listener is that you feel this is a safe space here, a place to hear things from a different perspective that may challenge you and your thinking in the best way possible, allowing you to give grace to how you've been raised or what you've been taught or told to believe. And perhaps you find your truth as I search for mine on this journey we call life. So grab your favorite drink, cozy on up to your couch or wherever you listen from, and join me for these soul deep conversations. All right. Hello, and thank you for being back here on the podcast. I am Jessica Janty, and I have a special guest here with me today, Tara Skubella, who is the founder and guide of Earth Tantra. And I had the wonderful pleasure of finding Tara. Actually, a friend had found her. I was looking to bring in cacao ceremonies to my work. And a friend had sent over your information actually to me and was like, I think she's starting this certification. Like it was within a day or two or something of you starting. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. I'm going to join. And so that's how we got connected. And so it is really wonderful to have you here. And I will let you introduce yourself a little bit more in a minute. But what I love to do before we start is I love to just ground us into some breath. So if you are here watching us at home or wherever you are, if you feel comfortable closing down your eyes, obviously if you are driving, do not close down your eyes. And so we're just going to take some breaths in through our nose and out through our mouth. Just slowing down our bodies, slowing down our minds, just keeping with this inhale and the exhale, allowing yourself to find a rhythm that feels good for you. This long, deep inhale and a long, slow exhale. Allowing the body to come to this place of stillness, this power of the pause. If we can give ourselves these moments throughout the day, this allows our body to feel safe in the stillness, to bring us into the present awareness, letting go of anything that may have happened in the day prior, letting go of any to-do lists and things that we have later in the day. And just being really present with our breath, with our body. This is a great time to check in with our body, just to see what's going on, to ask what it needs, to let it speak to us. We are so often so busy that we don't take the time to check in with our body. So knowing that you can use this practice, this breath, these slow inhales and slow exhales, to come home to your body, to check in with yourself. It's so important just to learn who you are, using your breath to just slow your body down. And we'll take a couple more breaths here together. And our next big inhale in. And maybe an audible exhale out just to let something go. And then coming back to the screen whenever you are ready. Thank you for sharing that time here with me. And thank you for those of you at home who listen and do this practice at the start of the podcast. And so before we go too much further, I love just talking about what we are drinking. I love it's like we're having a conversation together in the same room over a lovely cup of whatever it is that you like to drink. So what are you drinking today?
What am I drinking today? So today I am drinking Greek mountain tea. And this particular tea comes from the island of Crete, where my ancestors on my father's side, so my paternal grandmother's
I love
uh,
it.
family is from. Mhm.
So have you gone and visited?
Yes, I've been to Crete twice.
Love that. Oh, so
Mhm.
great. And I am drinking some cacao. I thought I would bring that in since that is how I found you. And I was at a conference, a spiritual business women's conference this last weekend. Well, not just this one, but the one before. And I got this beautiful cacao there from this lady that was selling it. And it was called, and I'd never heard of this brand before, but it was called Origin. And this is backwards. It's Origen. It was Sacred Cacao. It's from the, oh, and I'm going to forget how to pronounce this in Mexico. It starts with an O. It's like Oaxaca, Mexico. It's like Oaxaca. Yeah, so it's like likely sourced and all that, which I know you are a big component of or a believer in. So yeah, I decided to buy it, and I'm like, oh, this is my first time drinking it. So I thought that would be a fun way to bring that in.
Ah.
So,
Awesome.
well, thank you so much for being here. And if you would love to, I would love it if you want to just tell us about you and who you are. And yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Jessica, for having me as your guest. Yes, so as you said, I'm founder and guide of Earth Tantra, and I think one of the things about me is Earth Tantra is a purpose in the second part of my life and helping people heal with nature and transform with the practices of Tantra. There's lots of other parts about me, but I guess in a nutshell, as far as the hello, that's what I would like to share. Yeah.
I love that. And then I love to get into what is your soul's purpose? Like, what do you feel is your soul's purpose here?
Yes. I guess basically what I just shared, helping people connect with nature. And when I say connection, I kind of want to rephrase that because connection is being used so loosely these days, right? So becoming intimate with the essences of Mother Earth and nature to allow healing, expansion, transformation. She's so powerful in all of her forms. So helping people to become intimate with her, to allow whatever it is to unfold and weaving in those tantric pieces. And when I say the word tantra, sometimes our brain moves right into sacred sexuality. And tantra is actually all of life from before we're born to our entrance into this world through our childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and death and beyond. So Tantra is all of life. So it just makes sense, the wholeness of the pieces coming together in unity. So yeah, so that's my purpose of the second part of my life.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
love, thank you for explaining the Tantra piece as well, because I think for myself, growing up in a very strict religious background, the word Tantra, I mean, even evoked a reaction in me, even up to a year ago, just in learning what I have, or just from my background in general. And so I loved hearing your explanation of it because it has, to me, always been this sexual practice that and coming from the religious background that I came from, you don't talk about sex is just something that it was just very taboo to even talk about it. And then now you talk about this word tantra, and so it's like, ooh, that is of the devil. That's literally like where I come from. It's the belief that so that's why I'm so glad that you are here today, because this is a big part of my podcast, is wanting to bring awareness to pieces and parts of things that people just might not know. And we're so closed off, I think, to, especially in the religious community, to hearing and learning about something outside of what we are taught is true and right and real. and having that openness and that awareness to just say, okay, well, maybe there is something more to this and I should explore it a little bit, instead of being so closed-minded and so closed off to what it could all entail. And so I loved that you brought that in, that it is the whole being. That is beautiful. So how did Tantra find you? How did you find Tantra?
Ooh, yeah. um, so in 2014, oh my gosh, like really, like literally 10 years ago, I think to this month, maybe it was earlier in September, I was writing a blog called restlessgenes.com. It's still out there, but I don't write on it anymore, of having adult ADHD. And a casting company approached me and said, hey, we think you'd be great for this television show called Naked and Afraid. And so now when you're like thinking like Tantra, naked, oh no, that's not exactly where I'm going. Yeah. So I applied for the show. I didn't know what it was back then. It wasn't as common as it is now of a television challenge show, survival show. And I applied and I was cast right away. And then I filmed in January, February of 2015. And my experience there, so I had, except for growing up in the Greek Orthodox Church, I had no spiritual practice. Maybe I'd done yoga a few times, no breath work, nothing. And even though I had spent over 600 nights outdoor guiding, hiking various trails, etc., outside, working in the wilderness therapy fields, this particular experience reset and regrounded me to who I was meant to be on this earth. And so it was a 3-week premise. If you're not familiar with the show, back then it's changed a little bit now. 21 days, no clothes, no food, no water. And there's a production company that just kind of travels with you. We didn't get to travel in our experience because we were sequestered to a certain area, but they just capture the story and they make a show out of it. Anyway, when I was done with this experience, laying on Mother Earth for 21 days, and this was different. I was just being, I wasn't guiding anybody. I wasn't with a group of people leadershiping. I was just being, surviving, skin on skin with Mother Earth, earthing for 21 days. After this challenge, I left completely centered and regrounded, and I experienced a spiritual awakening a couple of weeks after I got home. And this completely shifted my life forever. I didn't know what was happening at first. And in that process of the spiritual awakening, I knew I needed to leave my marriage. I was in a really unhealthy marriage. And to bring the parts back to me to be whole again, I needed to do this. And I was confiding in a friend, and they said to try and, which was a great thing to share, to try and fix our marriage. Have you ever looked at Tantra? And I knew that Tantra was not going to fix my marriage, but I knew it might help me. And my first Tantric retreat with Don Cartwright out of California, like a long weekend immersion in Denver, actually. I knew that first day that's what I was meant to move into and to share with the world. So that's how I found Tantra. That's how Tantra found me.
It's a beautiful story. Man, okay, so I can't even imagine. Let's go back to the 21 days just on Mother Earth. No clothes, no nothing, no water, no food. Like, you obviously had to source your own food, your own water, like all of it, right?
Yeah. Yes. And these were skills that I already had working in the wilderness therapy community, and that I had grown over many years. So that part wasn't difficult for me. The environment was really challenging. But I had never spent that, even though I had slept right underneath the stars over 600 nights. This was different because you are stripped of everything, all of your comforts of life. And this intimacy piece that I talked about earlier, skin to skin, right? So Mother Earth vibrates at a very specific frequency, 7.83 hertz, known as the Schumann resonance, for anybody who's a science nerd like me, because I have an earth science teaching degree. So I have like this right brain, left brain. But anyway, yes, so this was completely different for me. And being so intimate with her, we are her children. And when I was able to lay upon her breast in the dirt for 21 nights, it was a much different experience than anything I had ever done before.
Wow, it's so interesting. So now, were you by yourself or was there anybody else with you?
Yes, so I did have a partner. So also kind of the second part of the premise back then was one man, one woman. Now it's all genders and they don't kind of box it out anymore. Yeah, so I had a partner and we spent the evenings together, but our days were actually spent pretty separate. So I went into the challenge. I'm also a busy bee, so I wanted to thrive. So I kept pretty busy. And that was my way of surviving out there, being proactive. Mm-hmm.
And so did you make it that full? Because the premise is to try to make it the whole time, right? Yeah.
Yes.
The whole time? Yeah.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody has their own challenges out there. And I went through mine and it was a pretty amazing experience. And I don't know, like it's hard to describe, and like really being in tune to the environment and your body and that connection. And like I said, I had no previous ways or words to put on that before and during that was happening. So it was meant to be.
I can imagine. So I've thought about doing a 10-day Vipassana, which is a silent meditation. And so I would think that that's kind of something similar where you're very silent, like you're with your thoughts basically all day, right? And where your mind can play a lot of tricks on you. It can be very negative. It can be very, so how was your mindset process through it all?
Yeah. So I'm speaking of experience from both because I've sat with Vipassana 3 times now. Similar and yet very different. Mm-hmm. So in Vipassana, you are true to only that practice. So you're not allowed to do yoga or other forms of energy work. And there's like papers that you sign that say that you won't. So in the survival experience, I was doing other things. I was tasking. And it wasn't pure silence like Vipassana, because I was able to talk with my partner and the production crew would ask you questions at the end of the day. However, it takes our bodies 3 full days to fully disconnect from any technology or external high stimulation, 3 full days before we can really truly drop within. And so this is really going to stir maybe people that are listening, like, oh, I can drop in after an hour or after 20 minutes. This is a different level of dropping in. And yes, until you experience that after 3 days, then you understand what I'm talking about through words right now. So Vipassana in that way is very similar to the experience that I had. So the experience that I had in surviving was maybe kind of like, I don't know, on steroids or something, because you're stripped from all of your comforts and you're really having to adapt and just be in that moment. And with Vipassana, you have some of your comforts. You have a bed. There is a discourse every night. But both of those disconnected pieces, that's the similarity. Yeah. And I'm also talking from experience in guiding wilderness therapy and other forms of nature, forest healing, etc., of that disconnect for multiple days. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've thought about it. I have this chiropractor who had just done one, and I really hadn't heard about it prior to that. And then he shared his experience when he got back. And he talked about like how his mind, it was really hard to shut off the mind. And it was almost like he was at war with himself for a while about just the thoughts that just kept coming through. And so then part of me is like, oh my gosh, can I handle that? Like, I don't know if I can handle that. Like, I would like to give myself that challenge. And I feel like my body is kind of craving that, like, deep connection to myself outside of anything and everything that we are inundated with all the time. You know, our cell phones are on us all the time. It is, for me, it is my work. I do a lot of my work on my cell phone, but that means that I am tied to it more often, excuse me, than I would like to be. And just so much stuff, everything around us all the time. It's just all, you know, all there. So that would be a very interesting experience, I think. So yeah. So now going back to your spiritual awakening, I think that's what you called it, right? Or your spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when you came
And to clarify, it was a kundalini awakening.
awakening. Okay, so how did that come about? I would think that, you know, just hearing what you've gone through and being 21 days in, you know, the wilderness surprises me that it would be after you've gotten back that you've had that awakening. So can you explain that a little bit, like why you feel like it happened after you got back as opposed to maybe while you were in the elements being with nature herself?
Yes. First of all, every point and moving toward that survival experience was universally aligned as I looked back. I was in a very unhealthy marriage, and my ex-husband would have normally been like, no, you know, I don't want you to do that. But he said yes. And the timing it was so many like intricate, I can't say that word. Little pieces of threads were weaving together for this pathway, for this particular survival experience. And I was kind of it was a different phase in my life where I really needed to get out of the marriage, I'll say. And so physically removing my body to be able to heal and reground and recenter, that earth energy was needed on so many different levels to calm my neural system, to find that place of safety and trust and whole. And nature's always been a place that I've gone to for that since I was a child. I feel more at home outside than inside, if that makes sense. And while I was there, I was being inundated by also a lot of poisons that were entering my body because of the bug bites. For a long time, I held the record of the most bug bites, at least 2,000 at any given time. And there are these little bugs called chitras, and they will, as they sting you, they also deposit their poisons in your body. And I went through a whole journey of their poisons in my body, medical sense. But anyway, so I really feel that when I came home and there was this pause because I was so nutrition deficient. I was underneath 100 pounds at the time, and I'm 5'6.5". So I'm not like a really tall person, but I'm fairly, you know, tall. And my body needed to heal and gain some more strength. And I really feel once I got to that point and, you know, bumped back up over 100 pounds and was more whole as far as the nutrition in my body, and also relanding at home, but that's when it was supposed to happen, and it did. Yeah.
Mm. And so you called it a kundalini awakening. So can you explain that to us a little bit for people that don't know?
Yes. So a kundalini awakening is the opening of your chakras to the point where, and each situation is different. So this is just my experience. And I didn't know it was a kundalini awakening until sometime after spiritual awakening. So all of us, it was really powerful within like this like day transition. My body was vibrating at a very high frequency, and I was receiving these like massive downloads from the universe, and I had no idea what was going on. I was so blissful. It was an amazing feeling. Like, just, you can't even put words to it. You are fully connected. Like, you just know. It's almost like this like hidden wisdom or something, where you're just presented and you're like, what? Nothing is like what I ever thought it was in the past. Completely life-changing on so many different levels. And I feel like because I was coming from a place of being very grounded before, that all the information I was receiving, I was trusting it. I was a yes, a yes, a yes, and acceptance. And then I was drawn to meditating, which I had never done before. I didn't know what I was doing. I have an earth science geology background. So I had a lot of like crystals and things. And I was like curious, like all of these things that maybe I had seen before. I just wanted to like integrate, and different forms of breath work, meditation with crystals. And I was receiving like visions. I remember a few weeks after, I'll say, the core of my spiritual awakening, which was about 2.5, 3 weeks, I aligned crystals on my body and went on to YouTube and aligned frequencies. And I would focus in on that chakra as I went upward. And when I got to the crown, and I was alone in my house, like the sound of like an explosion and leaving my body happened. And I was so scared, and I like dropped back in. And because I didn't have any guidance or experience, I didn't know what was happening. Now I've had that many times and I know how to move. I've mastered in moving the energy within. So different experiences like that would happen. And then after time, things can settle. Yes. And I was sharing these experiences with my first mentor, Dawn Cartwright. And she sounds like it, you're having specifically a kundalini awakening. And she's a tantric master. And then I took a 200-hour yoga kundalini / tantra certification, and we were able to have one-on-one with our teacher, and it was virtual. It was during the pandemic, and with my one-on-one, I asked questions about this, and they mirrored that back to me. So yeah, kind of wild.
Yeah.
It'd be really scary for some people. Again, any spiritual awakening is different. So what I'm sharing was just my personal experience.
So now you were before you went to this 21-day, on the show, you were a guide, you said, for like groups and things. You would take them like on nature guides, I'm assuming.
So I specifically work with adjudicated youth in wilderness therapy programs. So
then when you got back, did you continue to do that, or did then you shift and were like, okay, I need to do something different now? How did that all play out?
Yeah, so the wilderness therapy experience was in my mid to late 20s. And I filmed Naked and Afraid when I was 40. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then, now where have you gone? Like, how has life shifted then since this Kundalini awakening? Like, what are you doing now? So I know you have multiple different things that you do. So I would love for you to share with us, like, what are you doing now and how are you serving? And
Sure. Yeah. So at the time of the Kundalini awakening, I was working in the social services field, post-adoption services with a company that's changed names, but they were called the Adoption Exchange out of Denver. I do have a daughter who was adopted, and that's kind of how that aligned. And during my spiritual awakening, I was still working with them. I was only working 3/4 of the time, mostly through home. So it was actually a very convenient job to be going through a spiritual awakening, because I could make my own hours. I did have places to go and to travel to. So that really allowed me to embody and ride with that, versus I have to leave my house. That would be very, very difficult to do. So I just want to really make that part clear. So more than a year, it was like a year and a few months later is when Earth Tantra was birthed. And that's what's different now. So I made a lot of changes in my life to share Tantra with the world. I wasn't sure exactly at first how I was going to share Tantra, but it really just felt good and made sense, and weaving in earth-based healing, and what I saw, how nature completely can shift and heal people. So I used my experience of wilderness therapy, being an outdoor guide, and survival skills into an immersion with Tantra. And that's how Earth Tantra was born. And something funny, do you want to hear something funny? Okay. So originally Earth Tantra was naked Earth Tantra, but people didn't see the word Earth. They just saw naked Tantra. So after about a year that I had to drop that one. It's supposed to be like raw with the earth, but people didn't see the word earth. It was just naked Tantra. So she's evolved over time.
Funny. That's really funny. So people probably went to you and they were probably thinking like, oh, this is going to be an interesting experience. And then it was not what they thought.
Right? Yeah. So either you're like, wait, I get to be naked, and I am a naturist, so that part is, but it would either like turn people completely off, or it was like it was drawing in maybe some of the wrong.
Oh man. Okay. So I found you just online to do your cacao ceremony certification, which was so beautiful and I loved it. And I have used it now, I mean, multiple times. I've done ceremonies. I do full moon circles often, and I'm going to be having a retreat in October where we're going to bring cacao in. So it's just been beautiful. And I know that you've had a lot of you've gone to ceremonies and actually in places where the cacao is sourced from. So I would love if you want to share some of your experiences or how you even got to this place and how maybe cacao found you or you found cacao.
Yes. So Cacao, she showed up in my life at that first tantric retreat, but at that time she didn't really resonate with me. And it was a very beautiful and simple sitting. However, the first time that she really stepped forward, still before Earth Tantra was even born, it was, let's see, early on in 2016. So a year after my spiritual awakening, and a couple of months after my Tantra teacher certification training that I went through. It was a month-long immersion in Thailand. And my daughter was going to college at the time, and she came down, and I was living in Boulder for a minute at that time. And I thought, let's do something. It was winter in Boulder, and there's always something to do in Boulder, and you like go online and you're like, out of these 10 things, what do we want to do on a Saturday night? And there was a snowstorm that particular night. And so I thought, all right, let's dance. And it was a cacao ceremony woven into a static dance. And my daughter was like, yeah, let's do it. And so we showed up, and it was just my daughter and I because of the snowstorm. This beautiful, amazing woman, and I can't even remember her name. I actually sourced for about the first year. I was sharing cacao through her because she lived on a cacao farm in, I think it was Peru. And yeah, she was just amazing. And so she guided my daughter and I through a really beautiful private ceremony, custom just to us, and the flow, and we danced, and it was just a really beautiful sitting, rituals for the whole ceremony, and it was just incredible. And she really resonated with my heart space, and I got to feel those healing components between me and my daughter, because her father and I, we divorced a while back, and we were still doing a little bit of repair because I was the one who initiated the divorce, and she knew that. And that was a really profound and beautiful experience for the two of us. And then what was the second part of your question?
Oh, that's fine. Because I know that you've gone to places where it's sourced and you've gone there and so I would love to hear how you got there and how that happened.
Yes. So I would say the most impactful source location. So this was 2021, February, like right around Valentine's week. I was offering a women's ancestral healing event in Costa Rica, and a lot of tourist places were down and not taking people through. However, we linked up with a friend of one of the women who was attending the retreat, and we had a day to go adventure. And this particular local who had grown up in the area had kind of an in with the I'll say in, with the Bribri tribe. So they're one of the indigenous peoples of southern Costa Rica and northern Panama. And he's like, yeah, they're open to your group. And so we went to visit them, and they gave us a tour of their land. And they are so remote and such a tight community. Nobody there actually spoke English, but there was a couple of people that spoke Spanish, and our guide spoke Spanish. So the two community men members who took us through their cacao orchards and where they grew other plant medicines would translate to would translate to the person in their community that spoke Spanish to our guide, of course, and then our guide to us. So it was a very filtering through. And then at the end, so the women and the community would prepare the cacao. And then at the end, we got to sit with the women, and they roast their cacao beans. And so we went through the process with the women, and it was just really beautiful. And we met with their shaman before meeting the women, and he blessed us. And it was just a really beautiful process. Yes. I would say that's probably been my most impactful.
I love that. I do have a dream and like vision of going somewhere like that and being in ceremony in an indigenous area. I think would be so beautiful to just experience that, because I've done cacao ceremonies in person, but there is just something I think there would be at least to being physically in the space, drinking it with them, in ceremony. I just think that would be really beautiful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So another thing I like to ask on the podcast is maybe where you are now in your life, and looking back to maybe how you were brought up, born to believe, or raised to believe, and like how life maybe has shifted to where you are now, and maybe how you serve or what you bring to the world. Has anything like that resonated for you or shifted in your life at all?
Yes. And yes. And yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Like, my childhood was amazing, first of all. I feel like everything in my life has been universally orchestrated to bring the gifts that I learned at a very early age to now. A lot of honor and respect with that as well. I don't know how many more lifetimes I have left, but I feel like I don't think this is my last, but I'm like, I feel like I'm getting there. First of all, Tara was my given name, and sometimes people ask me that, but it was my given name, and my mother chose it specifically because it means earth, and not purposely. In college, I majored in Earth Tantra, right? And then Earth Tantra is born, and I don't know what I would do without Gaia Pachamama. I'm a Libra, so her energy, she just keeps me close to her breast. I'm the oldest of 4/5. I'm now 4. So as the eldest child, sometimes some of us oldest children, we have a little more of this nurturing energy, even unconsciously wanting to take care and protect our younger siblings, as well as being maybe kind of in that guide role, knowing that your actions affect other people. So that conscious or unconscious skill. Yes. And then I will say, growing up in the Greek Orthodox Church, if anybody that's listening has grown up in the Greek Orthodox Church or similar, there's a lot of ritual along this religious path, and normalizing ritual. So I'll just bring in maybe a couple of examples. Easter, huge time, like almost the entire year is built around Easter for an Orthodox person, and literally going through the birth of Jesus leading up to the death of Jesus and the transformation and rising into the heavens. I no longer identify as a Christian, but there was a lot of like ritual. They even pick 12 virgins within the church of young women who wear whites, and they represent one of the stories that happens leading up to Jesus's death. Death is normalized, birth is normalized, transformation of, even down to embodying the blood of Christ and communion. So a lot of like ritual, incense, five senses brought in, woven into the church, and a lot of like old traditional ways. So that piece in leading ceremony and ritual comes very natural to me because it's normalized. And growing up Greek Orthodox and being just in a Greek community, kind of being a little different in the way that I grew up, also normalized me being different, and it's okay to be different than mainstream. Like my friends would come to church and they'd be like, that's crazy. Yes.
A Greek Orthodox service or whatever you call it. So that is interesting. But I mean, I did grow up in the church. And so I do know there are things that our church did and different things that now I don't resonate with. I do still resonate with some things. But yeah, it's just been a path and a journey of learning what resonates for you and what feels right inside for you. And so how did that go? Because I'm assuming you no longer then practice in the Orthodox Church, correct?
I don't know. I haven't been to church. I don't even know. Probably when my brother got married in like 2008 or 9. That was the last service I had been to.
Hard for your family? Like, was your family really, were they upset with you because of leaving the church, or did that all go?
No, my family, yeah, I think, I don't know, except for my brother, he still attends church. And if he asked me to go with him, I would. Because it would be really neat, because he actually attends the church that we grew up in, just to see, childhood friends and community. And for a long time, I really tried to distance myself. Like I would say like maybe my 3rd year in college until probably my spiritual awakening. And I can embody those pieces and respect a lot of the greater good understanding of the practices and the spiritual awareness around that. I mean, I grew up with a priest smudging us with incense. What do I do now? I will welcome people into a sacred space through smudging. Anointing. We were anointed quite often in the Greek Orthodox Church. What's one of the ways that I welcome people and honor and respect them is through anointing of oils and so much more. So I can look back at that and really appreciate the richness and practice. Yeah.
So what do you offer now then for anybody that is like, wow, I just resonate so much with you and what you do? So tell us like how people can work with you. Do you do in person? And I want to talk about your bees too. So let's not forget about that.
Okay.
I just saw that on your Instagram not long ago. But yeah, so if you want to just tell people who are listening how they work with you, how they can find you, like what you do, because I've only talked about really cacao ceremonies and that you teach that. Obviously, you do stuff with Tantra. So if you want to explain like how people can work with you and to find you and all that.
Yes. So I think there's kind of like 2, I guess, pathways that maybe people who choose to work with Earth Tantra kind of find. There's like this, I'll say like a la carte, where, a workshop shows up, or maybe like the cacao training that you attended, and they're drawn to maybe just a few like specific offerings, retreats, one-on-one work, courses. And then there's the Earth Tantra School, which is also part of the course option that you attended with the cacao training. So within the Earth Tantra School, there's a 100, a 300-hour practitioner certification. So, and when I say practitioners, I'm doing old school practitioner training. So this is an individual who is either but learning for their own personal journey, not to share with others, or they are already a professional with experience. And I use the word professional kind of loosely, an experienced guide or teacher or facilitator who is learning the knowledge and already has a pathway of sharing it with others. And then within the Earth Tantra School, there is a 500-hour teacher certification course that's been going on since 2019. We just had a graduation during the autumn equinox, which was absolutely beautiful and amazing. And it's a 3-year program, could be 2 years. Most students, it ends up being three to even 5 years, just with busy people who have, modern day job, raising kids and stuff, to embody Tantra into everyday life. Tantra is not a place that we go to. Tantra is already within us. And so even weaving in those micro moments is really important to learn how to weave Tantra into the places that are really muddy and ucky, and then the really joyful times as well. So like I said, Tantra is not a place that we go to. Fully embodying Tantra to help us move through all of life. All of life. And so the Earth Tantra School offers this program for that true embodiment. That true embodiment. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. And so you do in-person work too, or just on everything that's online?
No, mostly in person. In the winter, there's a few online courses, like the Cacao course. That one actually starts in October. Book clubs. January will be a Blue Lotus certification. I don't know, there'll be something else in the spring as well. There's an online yoni steaming coming up. So different courses. There's also pre-recorded courses, healing the lower 4 chakras, which is basic tantric breath, and then opening the higher 3. So advanced tantric breathing. And those courses are pretty immersion based, even though they are online. It's a 6 to 12 week course. Learn at your own pace. Some of them are live, like the Cacao or the Blue Lotus or book club courses, the yoni steaming. Then throughout the year, I offer retreats. So Pleasure of the Primal Feminine is coming up. I'm so excited for this particular retreat in Roatan, Honduras, in early March 2nd through the 8th. Right before that retreat, there's a couples retreat called Sensual Souls, same location in Honduras at a really beautiful resort. There's only 2 spots left for that one. And then I'll be back in Turkey this first week in May 2025. I was in Greece and Turkey offering retreats this past spring. So yeah, offerings throughout the world. Summertime, most of the retreats are here at Raven Wild Farm. This is where I live, and this is a healing farm and small retreat center that's shared gifts through Earth Tantra. And we also have a bee therapy hut. Yes. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I was briefly looking at it on your Instagram, but tell us about it.
So there's really something special that's offered here at our farm. We are one of 5 only offerings of bee beds, bee therapy huts, and through the name Bee Zen, Z-E-N hut. So beezenhuts.com. It sounds like bees and huts, but it's beezenhuts.com. And we were only open to Earth Tantra guests this past summer and our friends, and word of mouth. But this upcoming spring of 2025, probably when I get back from Turkey in mid-May, maybe end of May, we will be open to the public for bee therapy. And it's not where, where therapists will put stingers in your body. You are actually sitting with bees in an enclosed area, but separate from the bees on a bed. And the bee hives are underneath you, separated through special screening materials that's very small so they can't come through. And it's an aromatherapy and vibration essence magic. Yes. So absorbing their essences through the vibration and aromatherapies. And if you've ever heard, it's like beekeepers live the longest and are like super happy people, just like farmers. But part of that is working with the bees and inhaling their essences and being around their vibration. And bee therapy huts and beds are more popular in Northern Europe, but they're really new here to the United States.
Never heard of one.
Yes. And we're actually starting to like compile all of us, and we're hoping to make like a website where you can go to all the different ones in the United States, because there's more people that will be building that are interested. I really want to give a shout out to Capella Ranch in Boulder, Colorado. We just happen to have 2 in the state, and they really helped us get started. And they are, if anybody that's listening goes to the Front Range of Colorado, I'm located on the western slope near Utah. So community working together. And bee therapy really supports the neural system. Their vibration is typically between the vibrations of the root and the heart. So also tissue repair, like after surgery, with the vibration, that groundedness piece, heart-centered piece. So if I'm relating it to chakra work, any within root to heart, their essences through the aromatherapy helps with any compromised lungs, whether that's allergies, people on oxygen tanks. And then combined with that neural system, Parkinson's, that's actually how we discovered bee therapy for my partner, Darren, his dad who passed away this past April. We were looking at like what could support him in having Parkinson's. And I have ADHD, and it really supports that. I have allergies, it supports that. Even just a sacred space, if you're just curious. It's not a one-stop shop. It really can help you for maybe 24 hours after bee therapy, but it works best if you're able to sit with multiple times within a couple of days, or come on a regular basis. Yeah, so this upcoming year, we'll be offering sits, about an hour to an hour and a half sits, or retreats. So, yeah.
I love that. That's so cool. So my sister keeps bees. And so as soon as I saw that, I sent it to her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, have you heard of this? Yeah. We're closer.
Yes.
I mean, someday we'll have to get out there. Yeah.
Yes.
So what do you do on your retreats? Are they mostly Tantra retreats? Is that what the retreats are that you do? Or they're all different ones? Or
Yes. So retreats that I serve are all Earth Tantra based, some sort of healing with the nature, connecting with nature, moving elemental energy within our bodies. And I work with all individuals. So there's retreats that's for any individual. There's retreats that are for women, and then specifically retreats for couples that focus on that sacred sexuality piece and really weaving in that intimacy. And when I use the word intimacy, just a deeper form of just quote unquote connection.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a more intentional connection. And they really vary. Yeah, it just varies like location. So ancestral retreats, womb healing retreats, the couples, there's kind of a retreat track that a lot of people like to keep coming back to. So there's Earth Tantra Retreat Level 1, which incorporates some silent meditation, a foundational practices of Tantra, as well as earth-based healing foundational practices. And it begins as an individual, and then we come together back in community for kind of the second half of the retreat. And it's a really beautiful experience and embodiment of Earth Tantra as a whole. I didn't learn this from anybody. It's actually a reflection of my own personal experience. And for whatever reason, it is changing lives. It's an incredible retreat journey. And then there's an Earth Tantra Retreat Level 2, which is a little more edgy because we dive deeper into shadow work. And the premise behind that retreat is rewild your primal truth. And the first one is reground, recenter, and reconnect. And then level 2, rewilding your primal truth. So it's a little more edgy. And level 2 there's a clothing optional piece and a really beautiful muddying ritual. And both of those retreats are all genders. And then which was formerly called a level 3, which now is not going to be called a level 3. And it's a rite of passage retreat. So it's just slightly switching. And then the former level 4, which is now just an advanced, like the rite of passage, is a death retreat. So I'm also a death doula. And so weaving in preparing for death is something that I also give back to the world, whether it's human or pets, animals, etc. And once you've completed level 1 and level 2, then you can attend either the rite of passage or the death retreat or both. It used to be sequential and it's not sequential anymore.
Wow.
So yes, and lots of others. And I'm super excited. So for the first time ever, it's either going to be spring, early summer, or autumn. It's like a year from now in 2025. I will be sharing a Rewild Her survival course and retreat. And it'll be a little bit lengthier. So it'll probably be about 7 days versus the 3-4 night retreat that I time frame that I normally offer. And I'll be teaching women how to start fire with sticks, survival skills, and it will take place here in Colorado. And then we be building up to, it might be like a 2 nights, I'm not sure, maybe even 3 nights solo quest preparation. And I guide solo quests as well for individuals or small groups, but now I'm going to be offering it, and it'll be a silent solo quest. So yes, I am so excited for that offering.
Yes.
It's going to be pretty amazing.
Sounds amazing. And I mean, when you said this piece where like, I don't know why it's so successful or why people keep coming and having, breakthroughs or whatever it was that you said, but it's like, you have a medicine and you are being authentically you and sharing it with the world. And that's what's needed. I think that's what's needed in the world, is people just to show up and be themselves authentically, because we all have medicine to share with the world if we are truly embodying our authentic self. And so I love that, because you are a true embodiment of your work, your life. It's beautiful to witness and to see. So I'm so grateful that you were here and that you shared with us so much. So.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah.
That lands really well.
Good.
Really well. Thank you. Thank you.
I feel like we could talk for so much longer, but for the sake of, podcast world time and things, is there anything that you would like to share before we close out? Anything that you're like, I feel like I need to say this yet?
Yes. Trust the path. Trust what is being presented to you. Sometimes we have a difficult time in separating the monkey mind from the real deep truth that lies within, and we get caught up in story. And so once we're able to separate that and listen, even if it's something that's edgy or fearful for us, Even if you need support in kind of differentiating the two, seek that support and move forward with the fear. The fear.
Yes, I love that. So
Mm-hmm.
good. So many people are stuck in that fear. So yes. Oh, thank you so much for being here with me today, for sharing your wisdom. You just are such a wise woman. I just love it. So thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Very grateful to have met you and to continue this journey with you. So, all right.
Thank you for honoring this space in between us and letting me be a guest.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Until next time. Oh, thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you loved listening as much as I loved recording. Each and every conversation that I have here on this podcast just lights my soul on fire. I love having conversations where we explore and challenge our ways of thinking. So if you've resonated with anything here and you're looking for more, please connect with me on Facebook in my Soul Deep community group, which is free. I'm also offering all my listeners a free month in my Soul Deep Connection membership. I have poured my heart and soul into this membership, bringing you resources to help you grow into the best and truest version of yourself. I've used my knowledge and experience as a nurse, combined with my knowledge and experience as a coach, breathwork facilitator, and somatic embodiment guide. This library consists of breathwork, kriyas, and other resources and modalities that will help you learn about and give you the healing tools to live the life you've been dreaming about, and to help you find your true passion and zest for life again. This library of resources is vital for everyday maintenance. And on top of the library of resources, there are live monthly calls, ranging from breathwork, kundalini, full moon or new moon circles, as well as guest speakers on a variety of different topics, from decluttering to marketing to sisterhood and all things healing and wellness. So make sure you join today to get you back on track to living that thriving life that you are longing for. Remember, the first month is free, and my hope is that you find so much value that staying is an absolute no-brainer. It really is everything that I was looking for as I started my journey, and so much more. I truly hope to see you inside my community. And if you haven't yet, please follow me here and on social. Like and subscribe, and make sure to share your favorite episode with your friends and community. And when you do, make sure to tag me in that post. If you tag me, you'll be entered into a drawing for that month where you can win a free one-to-one session, breathwork or coaching session with me. All the links will be in the show notes here below. Until next time, Soul Deep fam, and in the words of my dear friend Mary Lacey Banks, I'm holding you so tight in a thought hug.